Thank you. Welcome from the Global Tapestry of Alternatives Solidarity Economy Thematic Group. Halwest Karim will join us momentarily. She and I anchor this this thematic group, which is part of Global Tapestry of Alternatives. I will momentarily share the link both for that and some other ways should you be interested in joining us in a more ongoing fashion. So Global Tapestry of Alternatives is a process, a formation that weaves together alternatives all over the world. There are anchor groups that are weavers, which Vikap Sangam is one of them, based in India. And we're really thrilled today to have representatives who are here with us, who will share their work in credit and economic alternatives. So they will discuss how that microfinance had started in Latin America, Bangladesh, and India in the 80s as a social project to provide credit to the poor without collateral security. And so founded in the 1990s, the Timbuktu Collective, which is represented here, has been working on alternative education, the inclusion of people with disabilities, and large-scale ecological restoration of wasted savanna grasslands, financial inclusion of women, and helping smallholder farmers regain food sovereignty, enhancing livelihood opportunities for marginalized communities. Our speakers today are Comrade Thomas Franco. We're delighted to have you with us. You can see his full bio on the link I will share again momentarily in the chat. He has worked in the public sector banking in India during its most pro-people phase and served in the most underserved areas of the country. Sehjo Singh is an active member of Vikap Sangam, has been working on supporting people's movements and women's groups on the ground for taking more ownership of their lives, livelihood, and resources. There is a report on the website for this event. So again, I will put that link in the chat. Our time will go very quickly, no doubt. So I will ask now to shift to, I'm just double checking that. I will shift now, I believe, to Comrade Thomas or Sehjo to open and to signal to April so that she can open the PowerPoint at your signal. We anticipate about 25 minutes of presentation and then exchange. Comrades, we are so thrilled to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share the PowerPoint. Yes, it is showing correct, April. This is the first slide. So I will say when to move. That time you can move that. So once again, thank you for the opportunity. Me and Sehjo will be sharing this session. And number one, what we are presenting is based on a meeting or Sangam, we call it a confluence. We had in the month of June, in which we discussed this issue of credit. Next slide, please. Yeah. As Melanie already mentioned in the introduction, the microfinance started in Latin America and almost same time in India and Bangladesh, Pakistan. Uh, Basically, because the credit was availability was not there to the poor. And it was Seva, Self-Employed Women's Association in Gujarat in 1974, Grameen Bank in 1976, Compartmentos in Mexico, Prodam, Bolivia, Bank Riquet, Indonesia. So many things, so many similar efforts were taking place across the country. Suddenly, International Monetary Fund and World Bank saw this microfinance as an opportunity to make profit. They brought out report that this is a great opportunity to uh, earn profit, and from changing to service, the orientation of microcredit became only profit motive, and billions of dollars were pumped in, and this changed the whole scenario. Next slide, please. Professor Muhammad Yunus, who started the Bangladesh Grameen Bank and presently holding actually the position of the advisor to the government of Bangladesh or ex officio president, we can say. He had later on lamented that microfinance institutions are exploiting poor. This is not what I imagined and what I anticipated. And Bloomberg broadcasted a movie called Dark Side of Microfinance. In the name of liberalization, privatization, globalization, shortly called LPG, the public sector banks were withdrawing from microcredit, not only in India, in other countries also. They were reducing small credit and focusing more on profitable and larger credits. New institutions came up called non-banking finance companies in India. In other places, it is called non-banking financial institutions, or they are simply called microfinance institutions. They flourished. Today in India alone, we have 9,925 of them, giving credit to the poor at very high rate of interest. What happened is, because of this high interest and the coercion which was being followed by the MFIs, there were many suicides, and the withdrawal of the government and the public sector banks became a big debate all over the world, and it also happened in India. Though a new form of credit was introduced by National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development called the self-help groups, the microfinance institutions dominated, and they still dominate. Next, please. But then many different alternatives have emerged. Small, decentralized initiatives, and in the Credit and Alternatives Sangam, we shared some of the successes. 100 practitioners from all over India and few from Sri Lanka converged at Cape Comorin, where the three seas meet, which is at the end of the Indian country. The major organizations which shared were Mahalir Association for Literacy. Mahalir means women. Women Association for Literacy, Awareness and Rights. Timbuktu Collective itself has 6 different cooperatives. Mahasakti Federation is one of the cooperatives. Swadik from Tamilnadu, Accord and Just Change. Jagriti Mahila Cooperative Society. Next, please. Shukbhumi India Trust, Makam Women Farmers Network, Exnora Environmental Trust, Northern Development Cooperative Bank Sri Lanka, Maitri Pondicherry. These were the major participants in that economic and alternatives confluence. They shared the experiences and discussed the politics of microfinance. People-owned and people-managed self-reliant credit institutions were seen as alternatives to microfinance institutions. Next, please. So from the experience what we have, basically women-led organizations who are based on credit, the women deposit their money and that is given as credit. In addition, some loans are taken from the public sector banks also, and credit is available. Not only credit, now there are political interactions taking place. People do fight for their rights. They are not just for money. They are converging together in weekly meetings to discuss the local politics, the country's politics, the economic policies. All these are being part of this federation of self-help groups, in which in MALAR 34,000 women are there. Similarly, in Timbuktu Collective, the similar number of women are there. So what we have seen is that another economy is not just possible, but already in motion and reclaiming its spaces. Convergence and collaborations are ongoing. Already, after the June meeting, 3 exchanges have taken place between these organizations. So what I would request is that similar examples must be there all over the world. We should have more examples to share, and we should also collaborate with each other. And my wish is that let 1,000 flowers bloom. Full report of the presentation is already available. I think Melanie has shared it also in the chat. So that will give more details due to paucity of time. I will conclude with this, and once again, thank you for the opportunity. And I will request Sehjo to take over.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Comrade Franco. I'm unable to disable. I cannot start my video because it says it's disabled by host. So can you please start my video? Right. Thank you so much. Yeah. So what I wanted to say here, which first of all is that Comrade would not say. He is an extremely modest person. But let me tell you the kind of support that Comrade has lent to the efforts, especially women's leadership in many parts of the country. Now, Tamil Nadu is his home state, but his attachment to the northeast of India, which is one of the more marginalized parts of the country, is also very, very commendable. And Comrade Franco is associated with all such efforts where there is women's leadership. And it is not a coincidence that Comrade is doing this. I wanted to share with the people assembled here that India, and I'm sure this has been in many other countries as well, has proven a point about how women create alternatives in a way that has been so quiet and has been so much under the radar. And I think Comrade would agree that one of these institutions has been called the self-help groups, which was started by the government some time ago, tapping into the fact that women can be trusted to run things more efficiently. However, there is, unless there is a political connection, which people like Comrade bring, or there are movements which he has referred to, there's a literacy movement involved, there is something called the People's Science movement involved. So that movement brings a political edge to the women's groups who are otherwise used and even, I would say, even abused by government institutions to carry on work because women can be more trusted to do that. However, now with these kind of efforts, we see that the entire ecosystem which is created, it's not just economics. It is alternative economics. And that alternative economics has a very strong base of alternative politics. And what I wanted to share here today especially was that this alternative politics is reflected in the way they work. They work because we had the opportunity, thankfully, to be hosted by MALAR, the organization Comrade Franco has mentioned. Now, this organization has grown in 30 years to have an enormous corpus and 35,000 members. We were able to go and see the way the meetings are conducted, how the decisions are taken at the very, very primary level. So at the very primary level, they meet in very small groups, neighborhood groups, and the leadership is rotating. But there is a very important emphasis may be given to recording of the meetings and recording of the decisions. And these meetings are also the places where deposits are collected, small deposits from the women, which then go on to add to the corpus, from which they can take loans. And the profit sharing model is very, very clearly. So there is an enormous amount of transparency, which constitutes the education and a very, very real empowerment, because they are directly vested with powers to take decisions. So now this is very interesting because women's groups do not create silos of their work. For them, the question of violence against women, the question of unpaid work, the question of decision-making within the family, and all of these are the purview of the meeting. It's not that this is only an economic institution, so they will only talk about economics. So these are platforms and spaces. And then this experience was then validated by other groups and organizations. So in the economic Sangam, I mean, I cannot imagine that if it was an economic Sangam which was held for a mixed audience, that violence or harassment would become as important issues. But they were, because when women come together, they come together to support each other on all fronts. And so therefore, if a women's group is organizing credit systems, they are equally interested in each other's welfare. The other point that I saw very, very clearly was that the most of the investments, of course, one can say that the women have the agency to make any choice they want. They can spend it on jewelry if they want. But interestingly, because the economic part of the activity is very, very closely followed by the political part. So one saw that the decision making, although the women had their own agency, but the decision making about how the money is used was basically being used for two main things. One was education. A lot of them were able to fund good education for their children. Second was health. They were able to seek good health in time, because what happens is, because they cannot afford, they keep postponing health issues, and then it becomes such a crisis that almost people who have just above the poverty line are so vulnerable that they can be pushed below the poverty line by just one health crisis. So therefore, health was an important issue. And then small businesses. I think this also creates a space where the enterprise spirit, and then of course we know that the people who are are not supported by the state, they are entrepreneur by default. So that spirit of enterprise to support each other. So these three things were the hallmarks. Plus the entire system of feeling backed, feeling supported, feeling that there is a group behind you. So I would say that this solidarity, so it is economic alternative, definitely, but this is a complete and clear demonstration of what solidarity economics could look like. How people could support each other without and create value for consumer, because the things that they produce, there is a value for other people's health also. So it is quite clear that these kind of organizations, this kind of decision making is not the the typical laws of capitalism for profit do not operate there, because their main concern on production is also about what they give to people who they do not know. I mean, I brought some things, and I now really want to go back to it, because that kind of value for money creates value for the entire society. So there is, I think, a very important, very interesting, and very interestingly, very successful templates that are being created on the ground for these kind of networks, these kind of groups. And I think it's wonderful what Comrade Franco said, that because of our Sangam, these groups are now in touch with each other. And the kind of teaching and learning, I mean, it was already spontaneous. This was a meeting of doers. They were swapping notes, chatting to each other in spite of language barriers. There was a kind of energy which has persisted. And I think this is what we need to do. And I think the people who have the kind of issues and the conditions that they have to face, they are no great talkers. So the talking is left to people like us, who do not, who have the time and the luxury to create and understand the templates and the abstractions. But there in the conference itself, we saw that women got to the business of understanding each other's business models at what levels, understanding how they manage issues of violence, harassment, and how they create access to justice, all in one place, because life is not compartmentalized, certainly not for women. Thank you very much.
Thank you both so very much. And hopefully everyone who is in attendance is able to see some of the links. The link to this event webpage is about to be posted, and the full report, I see it should be there and viewable. The full report is accessible. So we now have a good half hour to have interaction and questions. So the Q&A is open for questions from anyone who's in attendance. Halwest is actively working to join us and will be here shortly. She is actually located in the Rojava region and was our last practitioner share. And so we look forward to her participating with us. So I think it is very exciting to hear the work that you all have been doing. And I'm wondering if you could share what this has meant for you both individually to be part of the process of actively creating the next system. That could be, something that impacted your own life. It could be witnessing women moving into positions that perhaps they hadn't considered before. I don't know which of you might like to offer us some things about that kind of perspective on the work you've done.
Comrade, you should come in first.
Okay. Thank you. Basically, as a child, as a student, I had seen absolute poverty in my village. I have seen people not having food or just taking some gruel. 3 meals was not imaginable. That kind of poverty was there. And I was a privileged one. I could get good education, get a good job. in the public sector bank. And I was part of the literacy movement in my area. It was a total literacy campaign where we came across nearly uh, 1 lakh, or if it is in million, 0.1 million illiterates, mostly women. They were taught to read and write, and I was one of the coordinators of that movement. I saw the pathetic condition in which they were living, their income level, the children not going to school, not going to college, all that. So when the government stopped the total literacy movement, I suggested that let us form women groups, start with savings groups, and later on it emerged into credit groups also. So basically we had as a principle that we will not take any foreign fund for this movement of women. We will not be dependent on the government funds, but women should contribute to each other, support each other, and that should create an organization which is run by the women themselves. No men are allowed to be an executive committee member of that organization. So basically, my experience, I had worked in some of the interiors of northeastern India also. So I have seen that poverty, and I felt that it was something in which I could do something. And I had that experience of banking, which also helped a lot. So today, this organization has become a totally self-reliant organization. And you will be amazed if you meet those women who joined the uh, movement 30 years back, how their life have transformed. We have hundreds of testimonies of them, how they were and how now they are, and how they are also intervening in the local politics and join in movements for their own rights. So that's basically my conviction was by seeing the poverty of the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sehjo.
I just want to add just a little bit that in my work across, I would say definitely 4 decades, this was something that I kept coming, kept seeing again and again, that an individual woman is one thing, and a collective, when women are in a group, even if it's a small group, they are transformed. So I have been noticing this. I've been a documentary filmmaker and I've documented this transformation of women becoming a collective personality that can, who can influence those in power. And I've seen this kind of negotiations of women's groups with bureaucrats and, you know, um, people in power. And so this was a feeling that I've had for a long time. And now when I've been more closely seeing how this has now taken shape and form of the kind of collectives that have money, that have their own the power that they've generated themselves. My thesis is, which I'm still continuing to work on, is that women coming to positions are not just replacing men, they are replacing systems. So I think in the next system, this will have to be studied, or maybe it's already being studied. And these are not women per se, these are women from lower castes and classes that have a completely different dynamic than women coming from privileged background. So I think it's a very important thing that perhaps we should underline even more, that the people that Comrade has worked with, when he says poor, they're not just economically poor, they are also socially poor. They do not have the opportunities, that actively kept away from opportunities in a society like ours, which is so deeply caste entrenched. So women are even the lower caste women are one layer below the men, even in the hierarchy, and the kind of solidarity that comes from below. I am sure that the upper class women cannot replicate those circles of solidarity, and maybe Comrade can bear me out. What we can do is learn. And that is what I've been doing for 4 decades. And that's what I wanted to add, that that kind of solidarity, which is at the of the people, of the women at the most vulnerable, where they have to use all their talent and resources to be able to nurture their families from day to day. And that is the kind of resource, that is the kind of intelligence, that is the kind of resilience, and that is the kind of solidarity which goes into what we are saying. It doesn't come easy. Thank you.
Wow, I really love what you said. Women assuming leadership are not just replacing men, they are replacing systems, especially women who have been marginalized. So I see there is a related question for you, Sehjo, and then also Comrade Thomas, you're welcome to join in on this thread of conversation. Desi is asking, based in your own experience working with women in your community, how do you think these women build a new system or new systems? Like, how does it actually happen? It's one thing to recognize it's happening, but what's the process or the lessons that we might draw from going from what is to what can be that you've seen in your work? Thank you, Desi, for that beautiful question.
So I can only give an abstract answer, but Comrade can give you the actually practical answer. So what I will say is, first of all, the kind of rules you create for bringing them together has to be very, very intuitive and perceptive. Because interestingly, the women will follow the rules you create. You know, they are very sincere and responsible, much more than a men's group would be. And so if you create groups which rules or regulations which come in their way, right, to begin with, when the women are just beginning. So I think it takes a leadership who's perceptive to the idea of solidarity, to the idea of being with the marginalized, that this kind of thing was created in the literacy movement that Comrade was talking about. So that base where a lot of volunteers went to places where people have had no opportunity to read and write, and that coming together, it was amazing that this literacy movement has had this kind of effect, which has had nothing to do with literacy. For example, one of the most successful movement to ban liquor, because liquor causes a lot of domestic violence, but the state does not want to ban it because it's one of the biggest incomes for the state from the kind of taxes they get from liquor. So one of the biggest movement of against liquor has come from the literacy movement. So similarly, this kind of support, which is a kind of a campaign, a push, and in that push, the kind of rules or groups or you create. For example, I just told you that they sit down and they take notes and they keep records meticulously. Now, this is something they do very sincerely. Now, if this was something which had been done in a way which was more bureaucratic, which had which took away too much of their time to do all that, then they wouldn't have been able to spend and give each other the kind of energy and time they need in the meetings that they have, because they have very limited time. So I think very important that the people who bring them together understand and appreciate and are able to be sensitive and instinctive about how these groupings are created. So I think Comrade can definitely put in the more practical part here. Comrade.
Well, initially when the rules were framed, women were consulted, and there was a big discussion on why we should meet weekly once. Leaving all our work, we have to come and sit in this meeting weekly once. We may not save that week, but we will have to sit. But then over a period of time, it became a discussion place. And at one point of time, when some other people mooted the idea that let us not it's like we are able to joke, we are able to greet each other and also learn many things, because in this meeting a lot of discussions take place on what is happening around the world. So that is one example. Another is that once in a group, a lady had taken a loan uh, for the medical treatment of her husband. The husband died in the hospital. She did not have money to repay. So the women together, they contributed the money and closed her loan. And then they said, we should have a scheme so that in case of a death, that person gets some relief. So they discussed and they started a scheme called a Death Relief Fund Scheme. Then in one of the group meeting, one lady was asking, why I will get money only after my death? That is not going to benefit me. Can't you create a scheme in which when I am alive itself, I can get some money back? Then they discussed again and a scheme called a pension scheme was started. So 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, they can save some money, and on maturity after that period, they will start getting every month some money. So that scheme came up like that. So in similar ways, the rules and regulations keep on transforming. They do keep changing the decisions which they have taken based on the ground level experience. Even the interest rate, initially they were charging 24% simple interest of 24% per annum, and on their savings they were getting 12% per annum. So once they found that the income was adequate and increasing, they themselves sat together and decided that let us reduce the interest rate from 24% to 18% simple, but without reducing the interest on the savings. And that system still continues. So this is how collective decisions are taken. And in the case of political issues, women, they have trainings, they give training, and they have made women to participate in the local body systems, the grassroots democracy. In India, we have something called panchayats, which are called local bodies in that their respective area. So they were encouraged to contest in the elections without spending money. They get elected and they do quite a lot of good things for their own area. So that way, number of developments are taking place, slow and steady. Thank you.
Excellent. And we have two questions, and two people have shared that points that you've made resonate with them and their own work. Katie from Zero Waste Jackson, Cooperation Jackson, has said that meeting weekly means we can support each other. And so there's yet another example. And Franklin shared that the point, Sehjo, about all issues being discussed by women getting together resonates, and that all issues intertwine. So two very important affirmations of the process by which the next system is created together and as part of the ongoing everyday experience. So I see one question in the Q&A. We probably have time now for two more questions. So this one I will start with. It says, what are some of the misconceptions people have about your movements and the work you do? So I don't know who, I don't know if either of you would like to start with that, and then I will tell you the other question. I see,
Comrade,
comrade, you're smiling. Both of you
hmm.
are smiling. So whoever speaks first, you're on.
No, Comrade, you start.
Okay. Uh, I don't know what you perceive as misconceptions. Yes, there are people who say that this is nothing except giving money to each other, borrowing money and spending, and getting into more debts. That kind of misconceptions might be there. But in practice, if we see the transformation which has taken place within the families, how they give so much of importance for children's education, how they give so much of importance for the health. Our assessment of 30 years out of the loan has been for education. 53% of the women who were surveyed had shared that they had taken loan for educating their children. Similarly, 40% of them had taken loan for medical expenses. So that way, the misconceptions will be cleared only if you come and see yourself what exactly is happening in the field. Luckily, we could experience that practically and periodically when we meet women. It really gives so much of inspiration to us that their life has transformed. Thank you.
So, there is the general misconception that we know that microfinance has been extremely exploitative, how Comrade explained in the beginning, and that microfinance targets women especially now because and this phenomenon of women committing suicide, it is a very very problematic thing because the kind of resilience women have, if they're committing suicide, which means that they are leaving their children to in the hands of destiny, means that they would be extremely extremely pushed to the wall. Now that kind of exploitation of microfinance comes from the fact by microfinance institution comes from the fact that they are able to reach women who are in need, sometimes even creating need when the women don't want it. And this is where exactly where the collectives come in. So there is this very world of a difference between women creating their own microfinance institutions or becoming a target or victim of the microfinance institutions of the system. And this is the kind of misconception that sometimes people need to understand clear that these cannot be clubbed in the same umbrella. They are completely different because the whole paradigm of women empowering themselves with support of institutions, mechanisms, and other people who are very distinctly pro people are very different from this. And I think that kind of difference, and because both are in a way microfinance, but I think that has to be driven very, very clearly that these and livelihood matters, economics are paramount for women. So if you say that this is only economism, that you're reducing women to only livelihoods, then it's not fair because it is a struggle which has to be addressed first, a struggle for survival. And when you do that, you see that the political social empowerment happens because you have to trust that women also know what they need. It's not just we who decide what is that they need. So I think that is the kind of misconception that I'm sure Comrade must be dealing with it all the time. Thank you.
Okay, we also have Liza who, oops, let me see if I can post, who wants to share their lived experience, though not with a specific question. And she says, during my time in South Africa, I was part of a women's self-help group made of university staff and faculty. We ran a savings and credit association with payouts in cash, kind, and credit. The group became a vital safety net during COVID-19, showing how such models can serve as emergency relief for low and middle income women. Whether it's called Susu, Stockwell, or Mukando, these systems are rooted in the African philosophy of Ubuntu, built on trust, reciprocity, and care. More than just saving money, they embody resilience, fairness, and shared responsibility. Thank you, Liza, for. Oh, I see. I am sorry. We, it turns out that Liza could have shared that directly as she is a panelist upcoming in about 2 hours. Please see her session with Desi on exactly this point and the relationship of Ubuntu and Next System and solidarity economy. So we have 7 minutes. I reposted the running notes because unfortunately, I think Halwest has not been able to join us. This is one of the complexities of international work, that sometimes the technology is not up to speed. But I do want to encourage you, if you're interested, she did a fabulous presentation, also centered in terms of the role of women in the lift of in Rojava and genealogy and Jinwa village, and the link to her video as well as Char from the Philippines from the Good Food community is in our notes if you'd like to join us for our probably what will now be every other month meetings. Please contact us. So in my final a question and close out. You each have a couple minutes, 2 minutes. And the question that I was going to pose has to do with generational buy-in to the structures that you're creating, the discussions. Are those discussions, in fact, intergenerational? Are they, how do young women, in particular, even girls, relate to this work that you're doing? So if you can combine a couple sentences about that question and any other thing that you would like everyone here to know about your work. We've posted the links. People know how to be in contact with us. We will hopefully add the transcript to our notes so that people can, really, there were so many things that the two of you said. So I will do a final sentence, but you have about 2 minutes each, and then I'll say my final thank yous to everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Number one, the older women, they are enrolling their daughters or daughter-in-laws in the group so that they also get involved and they develop over a period of time. Number two, the women's organization decided few years back itself that the future depends on the younger generation. So they have started youth groups of women. And some uh, discussions take place, are tapped, and there are trainings relate to their school education, college education, and also given. So that way, there is a live connect, and to share with you is that the 30 years conference was held recently in July, and that time the younger generation of girls who were not members but children of the the SHE members. They joined together, they had a big discussion and they gave a detailed presentation in the conference on what should be done for the future development of the organization. So that way, live connect is being taking place. Thank you.
So in the meeting that I attended at Kanyakumari, I was fortunate to have met these young women who are very bright, who have been able to access good education thanks to their mother's investment in them. And yet they have this very deep respect for the work that their mothers do. So why I'm saying this is because the money when spent on children and the kind of education they get can actually turn them into aspiring for the higher classes and create a kind of a dislike for the manual and physical work that their mothers are doing for their livelihood. But in this case, I saw that the kind of inculcating of respect for this younger generation has for the struggle, that because they're very deeply involved. Like Comrade just said that their whole group actually made a presentation of what they think was the kind of evaluation. And a couple of them were actively helping us translate, because we had a very mixed language group and they were efficient translators, not because of the efficiency in language alone, because they understood the concept so well. And I'm not surprised, because when you go to the meetings, women are carrying children with them to all the meetings. So they start on understanding the power of coming together from very childhood. So I'm really not surprised that the intergenerational learning is so deep, so intense. And yes, the daughters-in-law are also very important. So actually this is very interesting, because the daughter-in-law, mother-in-law dynamic is completely changed, because they become sisters in solidarity, and not just within the patriarchal family structure. They have ties outside the patriarchal family structure also. And that makes a huge difference to them. Thank you.
Wow, what a way to start Next Systems conversations. I am putting in the chat a very powerful invitation from Thomas to come visit. And I think, Thomas, it was going just to the panelists. And so here we are. I want to give great thanks for Ben and Gabriel and April for doing the anchoring, as well as all the members of the task force. Remember, Ben said there's about 60 people who have been putting together these 2 days of convergence. And I hope those in attendance will consider looking through the rest of today and tomorrow's agenda, because there are really terrific sessions being engaged. To Thomas, Sehjo, and Bablu, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us today, again, technology, such deep, profound appreciation for all that you've shared. I want to go back, like I said, and really cull there's many things to reflect on. I want to give deep appreciation for Halwest Karim and for the work that she does. And I encourage you to see her presentation, which was our last meeting, and Ryan Martinez, who had been the GTA Solidarity Economy co-facilitator up till very recently in a youth organizer in Manila. And so I think our session is now come to close, and I give thanks to all the forces that brought us together. As I will actually put the link, I think, for the music into the chat too, because what a great day to change the system. And yes, power to the people, power to all beings, and we're doing it, folks. Thank you so much.